From the moment we are born, our brains are hardwired to recognize one specific facial expression as an absolute guarantee of safety. The human smile is an evolutionary signal. It disarms tension, communicates warmth, telling the people around us that we are not a threat. In the 1990s, this universal signal met a chilling subversion. High-profile criminal cases from opposite sides of the globe introduced a new type of predator who used the smile not to disarm, but to taunt. This creates a deeply disturbing psychological puzzle. We have to look at how the ultimate symbol of human joy was able to transform into an anomaly so terrifying it led many to believe they were witnessing something supernatural. The severity of this anomaly became violently clear in 1996. In Inner Mongolia, an 18-year-old named Huguljilt discovered the body of a young woman near a public restroom. He did exactly what a responsible citizen should do and immediately reported it to the authorities. Unfortunately, the police focused their entire investigation straight back onto him. Under immense pressure from the public, a corrupt local police force needed a quick win. Huguljilt was brought in, interrogated, and severely beaten until he confessed to a crime he had nothing to do with. Within exactly 21 days of his arrest, the teenager was executed. It took 9 years before the actual serial killer, a man named Cao Jihong, was apprehended and finally confessed to the long list of crimes Huguljilt had taken the fall for. But it was Zhao's behavior during his confession that disturbed investigators the most. He displayed an absolute absence of fear or remorse. Instead, whether he was detailing his crimes, sitting through his trial, or even standing at his own execution, Zhao just maintained a constant chilling smile. On the exact same timeline, on the other side of the planet, American authorities were dealing with an identical psychological profile. His name was Keith Hunter Jesperson, though the press gave him a new title, Happy Face Killer. Jesperson managed to kill 10 people while hiding in plain sight as an ordinary commercial driver. He would taunt police by sending letters containing exact locations of his victims, always signing the horrifying notes with a crude, hand-drawn, smiling face. When Jesperson was caught, he exhibited the same blank, grinning reaction as Zhao did in China. Neither man displayed even a baseline human emotional response to death or consequence. Because this behavior defied basic human logic, many observers moved past clinical explanations and began fearing a shared supernatural possession. As details of these killers' behavior spread through the media, the documented anomaly of the smiling killer began to bleed into the world of urban legends. People began reporting encounters with entities that shared the killer's most disturbing trait. In New Mexico, a 23-year-old driving home from a night shift reported seeing a distorted man on the side of a completely empty highway. The figure had an impossibly wide, stretched grin and eyes completely devoid of pupils. As the driver sped away in panic, the entity chased him on foot, moving at an impossible physical speed. Meanwhile, urban legends in Japan detailed a similar terror. Commuters waiting for trains late at night reported looking at the reflections in their phone screens only to see a grinning figure standing right behind them on the desolate, brightly lit platform. When the terrified witnesses would turn around, the entity wouldn't be there. Instead, it would instantly appear on the platform all the way across the tracks, teleporting through physical space while maintaining that exact same horrific smile. These encounters were happening thousands of miles apart, but they shared a unified theme. The modern fear of the smiling killer was acting as a catalyst, resurrecting much older, latent cultural terrors. You can find parallels to this in historical folklore throughout the rural global south. In the remote villages of Brazil and India, century-old stories describe grinning, erratic old men with jerky movements, or women in white staring out from the darkness with frozen, unnatural smiles. Depending on where you look, history has given this phenomenon many names: the grinning man, the faceless smiler, the white-faced woman. Across these cultures, the explanation for this archetype was rarely psychological, it was spiritual. These stories framed the smiling man as a physical manifestation of a force beyond human comprehension. To understand the origin of this horror, we first have to understand the nervous smile. When a typical human experiences extreme, unmanageable stress, the brain occasionally suffers a biological glitch. triggering a smile as an involuntary defense mechanism to self-soothe. This diagram shows exactly how that functions. In an average brain, a threat triggers the amygdala, sending panic signals throughout the nervous system. But if we look at the neurological pathways in cases of severe psychopathy, we see a massive disconnect in how threats and fear are processed. Because this broken neurological pathway fails to trigger any distress signals, the brain never registers a threat. This leads to entirely inappropriate facial motor control. This structural failure is exactly how killers like Shao and Jesperson were able to smile while sitting on death row. They were operating with severe structural biological deficits that entirely removed their capacity to feel fear or remorse. So, if the killers themselves are just humans with damaged neurology, why do innocent witnesses continue to claim they see grinning ghosts on dark roads and empty platforms? The first culprit is a cognitive function called pareidolia. Our brains have an evolutionary overdrive designed to recognize human faces. Under extreme duress or in low-light environments, the brain will eagerly stitch abstract shapes, shadows, and branches into the terrifying shape of a face, just to ensure we aren't caught off guard by a predator. Combine that with cultural priming. When you consume terrifying news about real-life smiling killers, you pre-program your own subconscious. If you are panicked and walking alone at night, your primed brain will predictably hallucinate the exact twisted face you've spent the most time fearing. The smiling man exists as a convergence of two human realities, the broken neurology of a psychopath and the immense hallucinatory power of our own panic.